Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be doing my review for A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. So I was really hesitant going into this book. That's mainly because Sarah J. Maas books are very hit or miss for me. I've read at least one book in all of the series that she's had out. I've read the first two books in Throne of Glass. I've read all of A Court of Thorns and Roses so far, and I've read her new book that came out, House of Earth and Blood. And I don't enjoy Throne of Glass so far with the first two books. I really hated A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I really loved A Court of Mist and Fury, and I enjoyed A Court of Rings and Ruin, and I also enjoyed House of Earth and Blood. So since I liked her newer stuff, I had a lot of high hopes for A Court of Silver Flames, which is the fourth book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and it's also set in that same world, in which I like the world and I like the characters, so I feel like I should absolutely love this book. I was still hesitant about it because I knew that the main character in this book was Nesta, who is Farah's older sister. Farah is, of course, the main character in the original trilogy, and I don't like Nesta, like, at all. I really don't like Nesta, but I really like Cassian, who is the love interest in this book. So I felt like even though I don't like Nesta, because of how much I like Cassian, I could potentially still love this book. And that's partially because of my experience with Farah and Rhysand, because I didn't love Farah, but I really loved Rhysand, so I ended up loving them together. The problem is Farah really grew on me, and she's kind of at odds with Nesta pretty much the entire series. I don't think I ever got over that because Nesta is her older sister. Nesta is the oldest. She's supposed to be the protector, and she kind of just never did protect Farah. She kind of made Farah protect them while she protected Elaine, which is just so wrong in so many ways. Like, how you can be so favoritism towards one of your siblings. Like, I don't get it. So I feel like I never fully got over that. So because of that, I went into this book really hesitant. And honestly, I didn't love it as much as I really wanted to. I honestly don't think this book was that much of a disappointment to me, just because I didn't expect to like it that much, but I had hopes that I would end up liking it more than I did, and I kind of didn't. I ended up giving this book about 3.5 stars, which again, not a bad rating. There's definitely portions of this book that I really enjoyed. Like always with my reviews, I'm going to talk about 4 things: character, plot, world building, and writing. So let's start with character. I do think one thing Sarah J. Maas does really well is developing characters. Now, that being said, she develops them in a way that I don't love. I feel like she has a very distinct way of developing her characters. I think I've said this in a previous one of my videos, but I feel like she's the polar opposite of Joe Abercrombie. For those of you who don't know, I absolutely love Joe Abercrombie. He wrote the First Law trilogy. He is one of my favorite authors when it comes to character development. Joe Abercrombie has a way of writing absolutely deplorable characters, but making you love them. I feel like Sarah J. Maas is the complete opposite in the sense that she writes essentially good people in a way that I absolutely hate them. And Nesta is one of those people. You can tell she's a good person in some of the things that she's doing. In the middle of the story, she's kind of creating this community of battered women and trying to help them overcome the things that they've gone through. But at the same time, like I said, I just cannot get over how rude and frustrating and annoying she can be, that like I just can't like her. Like she just gets me so frustrated sometimes. But at the same time, I can tell she's like a good person and I want to like her, but I also want to know her motivations behind certain things, specifically her relationship with Farah. I want to know her motivations behind all of the actions that she did that made Farah's life so hard. Like, I want to understand it, and I feel like we never fully got that. There's backstory there, but I feel like it's not justified, and I want it to be justified, you know what I mean? So I never could get to the point where I liked Nesta and her relationship with Farah, and I do think there is a good plot line for that in here, especially towards the end. Like, I like what happened at the end. I like the way it ended and how that relationship ended up, but I had a lot of issues with how it started. Like, to me, it just didn't feel true. Like, I didn't see that that's how it would have actually ended up. Like, I couldn't see her actually making those decisions based off of her past decisions. Like, it just felt like out of character for Nesta, which is not really how you want it to be. Like, I actually wanted her to be able to do the things that she did, but I didn't believe that she actually did them, if that makes sense. That being said, all of the other characters in this book, I absolutely adore. Cassian is his very much adorable self that I absolutely love, as well as the other characters in this book. I will say, I did not like Rhysand as much in this book as I did in the other books. He definitely has like a little bit of a hard shell towards Nesta that I feel like is just not working. It makes him feel a little bit out of character as well here in a way that I feel like he didn't feel that way in the previous books. Maybe a little bit in like the first book, but at the same time, I absolutely love Rhys and I don't like Nesta, so I'm kind of okay with how he treats her. Like honestly, kind of okay with it, which is terrible, but that's where we are at this point. Lastly, character relationships. Like I said, the sister relationship just does not work for me at all. It didn't work for me in the original trilogy. It does not work for me here. Even the Elaine sister relationship does not work for me. And then we have the romance, which I really wanted the romance to be my saving grace. Like I wanted it to be the thing that I can cling to in this book and say, it wasn't the best, but I still really enjoyed it. And it wasn't. I feel like when it comes to romances, you gotta feel the chemistry between the characters. That is what makes a really good romance. And I didn't. I didn't feel any chemistry between these characters. So the scenes that happen in here, instead of being adorable, felt just a bit cringeworthy. Really didn't work for me and I really wanted it to. Like I really wanted to. Like I kept giving it a second chance saying, maybe this will be when I start liking them or this will be when I start liking them, and it never happened for me. I never really felt it. I think they make a good match, but I wanted to feel something from the characters and I never got there. So then we're going to talk about plot. And I think this book actually does really well when it comes to plot. I enjoyed the plot of this book. The problem is I'm a character-driven reader and this is very much a character-driven plot. Like the idea at the end of the plot, what makes it so great is the character development there, except like I said, I didn't believe the character development. It didn't work for me, but the other aspects of the plot are actually really cool and I really like the plot for the other aspects of it. That being said, I felt similarly in this book as I did with The Court of Thorns and Roses, in the sense that first about 60% of this book was very much based off the romance, and like I said, I didn't feel very much from the romance, so I was just kind of bored with like the first 60%, but then I absolutely loved like the last 40%. I don't know where to go with that. Like that's really hard. I did absolutely like this book more than A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I think that's partially because there's the Night Court characters in here as opposed to A Court of Thorns and Roses, where like you don't meet those characters until A Court of Mist and Fury, so they're not in that book, so there's like no saving grace in that one, while this book has those characters and you can see kind of like the subplots going on in the background that you can really enjoy. But when it came to the main plot, like I said, the first 60% or so was actually quite boring to me. Like I honestly not sure how I got through that first 60%. Next, we're going to talk about world building. I feel like I don't have that much to say about world building. It's the fourth book in a series. The world building honestly hasn't changed that much. Out of all of her books so far, this is my favorite series for world building. I love Fae. Like for some reason, it just works for me in a way that other things don't. And Sarah J. Maas has a way of writing urban fantasy ideas in a high fantasy way that just works for me. So I do really enjoy the world building specifically in this series. And last week, we had to talk about writing style. I feel like I've talked a lot about the writing style in general through this whole thing with the character development. I feel like I don't necessarily give this author as much credit as I should, because she does write really well, especially when it comes to tension. She does a really good job of weaving tension throughout the story, because like I said, I didn't care very much for the first 60%, but I still got through it because there was tension. There were mysteries and things that I was interested in, even though the main point of that, which was the romance, I didn't love. So I don't know what to say about that other than there are some aspects to the writing style that really work for me, while there are others that I just find incredibly boring. I don't know. This was a weird review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope this gives you an idea of whether you want to read this book or not. I don't regret getting this book and I don't regret reading it. And while I didn't expect to like this more than I did, I really wanted to. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post videos on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. If you'd like to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. Also, show me links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.